Pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. For those in the audience, if you are going to speak during the public speech portion of the agenda, we ask that you sign the sign-in sheet in the back of the meeting room, so that way we can have an accurate record for the fiscal officer when you come up to talk. We ask now that you do come up to the podium where the microphone is at and speak into the microphone if you could, because our board meetings are now not just audio taped, they are videotaped and they are posted online. The agenda is before us, so is there any additions or deletions by fellow board members or staff? Hearing none, the agenda will stand as presented. We'll make one final note that we need to stop at 6:15 p.m. We have two public hearings for Amendment 552 and for Amendment 553. We'll stop the agenda accordingly at 6:15. We will go now to the sheriff's report, and I will turn that over to Mrs. Campbell.
I do not have anything for the sheriff's report this evening.
Okay. Does anybody at this time have anything they would like to address the board or the sheriff's representative exclusively to policing issues in the township? Okay. Hearing none, we will close the sheriff's report and go to new business since there is nothing under unfinished business. Mrs. Campbell.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution for the false alarms.
So move.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Item number 2, I'd like to turn over to Mr. Iacino.
Item number 2 is an agreement with Stark County engineers on the Warner Church project. They're asking us to partner with them on the project. They're asking for $50,000 for us, which is not needed at this time. This is for the application to the OPWC, and they'll get more points because we're partnering with them. Also on this project, we are getting a new road that we don't have currently. It's going to be a cul-de-sac. They're going to work on that. And there's going to be some utility work done. I do know Chief Snyder was asking about water lines. There's a possibility some water lines might be looped from the Market Avenue because of that widening project in a few years that the water department might be doing on this end as part of this project.
All the way to Warner? It'll be looped all the way to Warner Church?
Yes, to Middle Branch because of the, it's an agreement in front of you. You guys sign it, we'll get it back to them. Project does not need, our $50,000 does not need until after the contract is signed. I do believe it's 2015, 14 and 15 or
So
something.
this ties directly into this public meeting, the public meeting we had with the different bridge construction.
They're going to realign
So-
it with
so
Apple
forth.
Grove. Right.
Yeah, probably like we got residents here, and now we're on YouTube, maybe let people know what we're looking at.
The bridge on Warner Church is in dire need of some work, and they want to realign Apple Grove and Warner Church. They have some right-of-ways to buy. This way they can put traffic on here. With all the extra allotments being built up in that section, there's more traffic coming down that can't get out of Warner Church easily. So this would allow for a traffic light to be put there and not have two lights within 300 feet, 400 feet of each other.
Thank you, Joe. And this was also part of the public meeting,
Yes, they have
showing that
public
we had
meetings
here.
here on different ways to do it in different phases. They let people pick
There
the
was
way
three or
Three
four.
options.
3 or 4 different alternatives, correct.
Okay, I will move adoption of new business number 2.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize payment of $5,200 to Jennifer Arnold, attorney at law, for legal services for Plain Township from Fund 01A-10.
Also move.
Seconded.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
And that ends new business.
Thank you, Mrs. Campbell. Let's go to the fiscal officer's report.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item number 1 is a request for resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the payment of pending warrants in an amount of $44,885.22 is attached here to and made part of the minutes.
So move. Second. Mr. Geovasis.
Can't call it tie, so that's okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 2 is a request for a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the payment of the regular payroll in an amount not to exceed $220,000.
So move.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
That was Mr. Lino on the second.
I second it, yes, it is.
Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 3 is a request for a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the payment for the following medical claims as provided by Benefit Services.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 4 is the investment report.
I'm just gonna do it October. October, yeah.
Fiscal Officer number 5 is a request for a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to authorize the following transfer.
Also move.
I will second Mr. Lino. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Fiscal Officer number 6 is the request for the transfer of the liquor license as identified in the attached email and whether or not there's any objection to that. This is for
There's
the,
no reason to change it.
that's a transfer for, because of the change of ownership, there's no objection, I'll fill that up and send that down. And that concludes the Fiscal Officer's report.
Yeah, we can have one second. Concludes the fiscal officer's report. Let's go to the administrator's report.
Thank you. Item number 1 is a resolution by the Board of Trustees to direct the Plain Township Fiscal Officer to place an advertisement for bids for the Schneider Community Park Flush Restroom Project in a newspaper published in Stark County and of general circulation in the township on Friday, June 14th and Friday, June 21st, 2013, with bids to be received on June 28th, 2013 by 1 o'clock.
Also move.
I will second it.
Any discussion?
Just from discussion, we've made sure all parties have the proper notifications of the DNR.
They do now, all the proper forms are in the bid document. I've spoken with the director, the bid invitation is correct now, so we should be set to go.
Just one final note. Lisa, you did a fantastic job putting this bid back together, and I think that should be pointed out.
Thank you.
You know, further discussion, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Item number 2 is a resolution for the Plain Township Board of Trustees to adopt the attached Plain Township whistleblower and non-retaliation policy and to add this policy to the Plain Township employee handbook.
Also move.
Second, discussion.
Yes, I cannot take full credit for this policy. I have worked very closely with Trustee Scott Haas, who helped develop this policy with me. I would like to, for the board to review it. The first page is an acknowledgement of receipt of this. I will be training all departments, both unions, and every employee within the township, so they are just not getting a policy, signing a sheet of paper, and saying they've received it. They're going to sign it, say that they agree to the extent of the concerns, that they understand the potential violations of the policy, that they understand the policy, that Plain Township is free of discrimination, retaliation, threats, and we will be moving on to that training as soon as the board passes the policy. The purpose of the policy is to promote, which what I think we have is an open door culture where every employee feels comfortable reporting misconduct without any sort of retaliation. When they feel there's a violation of Plain Township's policies, the handbook, the Ohio ethics policy, or the law. And this policy applies to everybody. It applies to the board, it applies to the department heads, it applies to all employees. Every employee, of course, has a duty to report misconduct or suspected misconduct, and then there's examples of misconduct in there. You don't need full knowledge to make a required report. If you even have a reasonable suspicion, you can make a report, but if somebody makes a false or malicious report, there will be discipline up to and including termination. So it doesn't open the door for somebody
You
to
just
just,
answered my question.
yes, to just make an anonymous complaint, just to do so. It has to be made in good faith. As much detail should be provided, including the dates, any important documents. And here is how you make a report. You can report it to a supervisor. If you're not comfortable, a department head. If you want to move up the line, you can report it to myself or our township law director. What we felt was important is that you do have a source that you can go to outside of the township if say that person was myself that was making you uncomfortable or had done something, or if it was Eric who had done something. So we have that person who is Greg Beck, who is a partner at Baker Duplicar, Beck, Wiley, and Matthews, and he has worked on it with us several times here at Plain Township. Department heads' responsibilities are to guide employees, make sure that they understand the policy if they ask any questions. Department heads who are aware of any misconduct have to refer that to myself or the law director. What's important is if there is a report that the township investigates those reports, which we do, and employees cooperate, and that confidentiality is kept as best that it can be. And Plain Township follows all the Ohio ethics, the law, and our policies, and appropriate discipline is given. Of course, there's non-retaliation, meaning whoever reports the misconduct, there's no retaliation, and there's a list of what retaliation could be. What's important is that this policy supersedes
Lisa,
any...
I apologize. Put a little check mark next to that. We're going to pause. We have to go to our public hearing. We're going to come back later. I'm
All right. I will.
Just put a
I'm
little-
almost done.
Oh, go ahead.
All right. This supersedes any policy of Plain Township already in place, and that Plain Township, the Board of Trustees, is the sponsor.
Okay.
So you'll just be left with a vote.
I have one question when we
Yeah.
come back to this, and then we'll go ahead and vote. And we're going to go now to our first public hearing, which is at 6:15, and that's for zoning amendment 552. And I'm going to turn this over now to Mr. Denny Falk, our zoning and economic development director.
Thank you, Mr. Geovasis. Amendment number 552 is our zoning commission met on April 10th to consider various text amendments. At that time, we had no opposition from any public. We added some definitions. We generally cleaned up conditional use items that were left straggling. As an example, in B2, we just added a statement to accept conditional uses as permitted in S1 and B1. It's kind of a continuation of standard zoning. If something's allowed in B1, it's generally permitted in B2. We did once again, we did a continuation. We did add an adult daycare as conditional use to our S1 through I2s. We added assisted living facilities. in our R3s through I2s, and then we also added a model home as a conditional use permit in residential districts. You know, developers go up and they want to build a model home, and in theory it's a quasi-business use in a residential district as a model home. But in checking with other areas, Jackson Plain, North Canton as an example, a model home is a permitted temporary type of use until it moves on and they're generally out of there. You know, so and you can read what's there. We did some updates to temporary storage buildings. We added the temporary pods that are becoming more and more popular to make certain that they got included in any temporary structures that we may or may not have on a property. Generally, these are the type of things that may appear during the course of construction, possibly a fire issue, or people have to take things out of their home and have a temporary storage pod, that type of thing. And again, this went through RPC. We had a couple of minor modifications based upon what they wanted to do, basically just minor text, very small, actually a couple of punctuation
And
things.
these are ones that are listed right here, approval
Right.
application.
Yeah. And then you have in your packet, at the end, you've got a kind of a color-coded document there that shows what the changes are and were.
And the modifications from regional planning were the ones that were added to the ones that the zoning commission voted on?
Right, you know, we reviewed them, we agree with some of them, we modified a couple of them, and a couple I think we said, I think we believe we have was okay.
Okay.
But again, there wasn't any major issues with any of these items. Pretty straight text changes.
All right. This time, do we have anybody in the audience that's here that would like to speak in favor of text amendment 552? Is there anybody present who would like to speak against text amendment 552? Hearing none, make a following motion. Whereas a public hearing was held on May 28, 2013 by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to consider amendment 552 to the Plain Township zoning resolution, whereas such hearing was properly and timely held pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 519-12, whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has duly considered the nature of the amendment and reasons therefore, the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission, the Stark County Regional Planning Commission, and the information provided by any and all interested persons. Now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adopt the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission for approval with the said modifications.
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have
553.
Amendment 553. This was a result of a meeting of the Plain Township Zoning Commission held on May 8th. Once again, this was text changes, some cleanup of items. Several of these items were cleaned up based upon fair housing. We had a presentation by the county's fair housing director, Valerie Watson, and after that, she also helped us go through our resolution and clear up any little minor wording issues, that type of thing. As an example, in the definition of developmental disability, we removed the word retardation, where it said mental retardation, and changed that for mental illness. We took out a specific conditional use where it conditional use 143, where it said no such group home shall be located within 1 mile radius of another such facility for the developmentally disabled. Well, that's patently illegal to have any such spacing. Yes, it's a residential use, so it's residential use. So we went through and did some items like that. We added definitions of kennels, and we added language, for example, where we had a section our section regarding fences, we specifically made certain to refer people to another section in a resolution regarding corner lot visibility. It was just missing there. Someone just said the fences, they might not have all the data to make certain they have the corner lots. And the same thing with signs. And again, I think, our zoning commission has done a pretty good job this past year and winter going through and trying to get a just general cleanup of hanging items, if you will. And once again, there was no public opposition to any of these issues at the meeting. In general, followed some modifications recommended by RDC. There are a couple we did not. We changed because we felt that RDC didn't quite understand what they were. Specifically, we have a section regarding temporary signs and the permitting of temporary signs. Somehow thought that we were allowing way too many and we weren't allowing any more than we already had. Pretty generic cleanup of hanging chads, if you will.
Okay. At this time, is anybody present in the audience that wishes to speak in favor or against Amendment 553? Okay, I just turn it over to Mr. Hawes.
This may be vernacular, semantics, or whatever, but when you look under proposed text amendment, Article 4, definitions, developmental disability, we're talking about removing the word retardation, replacing it with illness.
Correct.
Is there a reason why that versus, say, disability?
This was a direct
I mean, is that
recommendation
consistent?
from Ms. Watson in Fair Housing. As far as proper politically correct terminology.
Well, people, not necessarily, it spells out in here the different mental disabilities, developmental disabilities, cerebral palsy, autism, and other conditions found related to mental illness. I don't think that is clear because, it's considered an illness. I think that is considered a disability. And I think that the board should be careful that we define that as such because under the fair housing standards and some of the other things like that, I believe that most likely or probably the board should change the terminology in that Article 4, like Mr. Haas suggested, to mental disability.
All right, and once again, this was a straight recommendation from Ms. Watson in Fair Housing.
Why don't you make it an and/or? You can say mental illness and/or disability.
Okay, that's fine.
Does it require this to go back through a whole
No,
process?
we just modify it.
Just modify.
Modified.
And then, is there anything else?
No.
I'm going to make a motion, whereas the Plain Township Zoning Commission conducted a public hearing on zoning amendment number 553 on May 8th, 2013. Whereas a public hearing was held on May 28th, 2013 by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to consider amendment number 553 to the Plain Township zoning resolution. And whereas such hearing was properly and timely held pursuant to Ohio Revised Code 519.12, and whereas the Plain Township Board of Trustees has duly considered the nature of the amendment and the reasons therefore, the recommendation of the Plain Township Zoning Commission, the Stark County Regional Planning Commission, and the information provided by any and all other interested persons. And now therefore be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to modify the recommendation for the Plain Township Zoning Commission to adopt it, but as well modify the recommendation specific to Article 4 definitions, developmental disability, and removing the word retardation and replacing it with illness to say and/or illness or disability.
Yeah, I believe in any spot where it says uses the term mental illness to put
Mental illness and/or disability.
And/or disability.
Gotcha.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes. Okay, that will close
Thank you, gentlemen.
zoning amendment 553. Thank you, Mr. Falk. And now we'll go back to the whistleblower policy. And Lisa, did you have anything additional to add?
I wanted to say, I think most of the policy will be handled internally, as it has been in the past. If we get to the point where we're using Mr. Beck, typically that's at the point when OTARMA is involved, and that's why I went the route with Mr. Beck, because that's who they have appointed historically in the past. So I do believe that most of the cases will go internally, as they 99% of the time have, and if not, it will be handled through OTARMA and Greg.
Question to that, Eric, maybe from a legal standpoint, you can answer this too.
Sure.
Because I'm very oops, I lost my thing, but in regards to the policy, it lists Mr. Becking's phone number where an employee can call him direct. In the event that an employee calls Mr. Beck direct, does that automatically get OTARMA involved?
No.
No.
Or is there going to be a monthly or an hourly billing rate that he is going to charge the township for that?
Actually, I don't believe either at this point. It's my understanding that should that provision trigger, so long as it doesn't involve me,
Yes.
I'll be made aware of it
Prior to
any action being taken.
Mhm.
It's just, it gives our employees the ability to go to somebody, even if it's not me that is the person who's doing whatever the accusation is. They may think, oh my gosh, Eric and whoever, they know each other, I don't trust that, and we want to give them that independent third party that's not here on premises, that they don't know, that's in here, that is completely objective. And Greg has worked with us so much on these very issues that we thought he'd be perfect for.
I mean, I think it's great the employees are going to have that individual neutral source to go to, and I'm fully in favor of that. It just, as much as we think that we're responsible to protect the employee and may have an issue and to make sure that it's fully investigated, we also need to make sure if there's going to be an expenditure involved, that is made known to us up front.
At this point, there is no expenditure unless and until action beyond the taking in of the
Which OTARMA
complaint,
takes in.
which, yes.
Okay, that answers my question. It's very good then. I have no further questions or discussion. It's a nice job on behalf of Mr. Hawes and Ms. Campbell and the others that were involved in drafting this. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Item number 3 is a resolution by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to authorize the purchase of 2 ice makers from Ritzy Distributors in an amount not to exceed $6,498 and to authorize payment from the following funds. Fund 1B06 and Fund 2A805A.
Also move on administrator number 3.
I will second it.
Any further discussion?
Just as a quick point of clarification on it, right now we're buying ice,
Yes.
and we keep over there, and I mean, with the scope and scale of the events that we have over there, longer term, this is just a more
It is. When we're spending
judicious way to.
hundreds of dollars per event on ice and we're doing concessions, it just makes much more sense to have an ice machine over there. But then Chief also needs an ice machine, and the company that we're purchasing from, you'll see 3 quotes, gave us a better discount for buying 2. And you'll see the 3rd quote was close, but the ice bin was 200 pounds smaller. So that's why we're going with Ritzy. They're actually really close, because for us it's capacity, especially with concessions. I just feel like we're throwing money away with every event that we're spending $400 or $500 purchasing ice. So,
Dollars melting away.
yeah, we're not throwing it away, we're melting away.
Joe, you guys have one on the church? Yes, we have.
Yeah.
Very good one, but,
My
There's
husband-
various reasons why the fire department needs it, especially in the high
Yes.
heat.
Yeah.
Stuff like that, the firefighters need that.
When Eric mentioned about purchasing, I told him we were gonna be buying one, so if he could check, give his lid on it, if the guy was willing to, cut a price break on the cost of it for a second.
Second.
If you're interested, he did that, and gave the information that fit our criteria what we needed, so we went ahead and,
It was about $100 off the quote of each, so.
Nice heads up.
Mhm.
Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Okay, and finally, I have a motion to amend resolution number 13-192, Frank Gagliardi, be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees to amend the payment amount on resolution number 13-192 to authorize payment to Frank Gagliardi for instructor fees for soccer programs in an amount not to exceed $1,824 from fund number 14-A-07.
Also move.
Second that. Discussion?
What's the
This
what's
is
the
because of
difference?
an error.
Yes, he does a lot of our soccer programs, foot skills, soccer 101, great instructor. He was paid $1 less per child per session than he was supposed to, and it was just caught by Stephanie in the fiscal office and myself, so this is to adjust that for that miss there.
Further discussion?
Oh, you know, he's not being paid $1,824, that's just the total amount. It
Total
was
amount
about
he
a
will be
$400
paid. He will
difference,
be
yes.
paid. That's the total cost of all of it.
Yes.
Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes. Okay. Conclude, Mr. Campbell. Okay, we will go to the road report, Mr. Iacino.
Mr. Chairman, item number 1 is a resolution to approve the grant funding to Stark County Community Development Block Grant Program for the Woodward Bar Storm Sewer Improvement Project.
So moved.
Second, discussion?
Yes, we have to re-sign our agreement. They were missigned last time, and this resolution needed to go with them. So
Okay.
we sign it tonight, we'll get it down to them.
Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Mr. Hawes?
Yes.
Item number 2 is for a quick discussion. We recently had a pipe failure on the storm sewer on Cinderfield and Pinecrest. It's part of the Laurel Ridge storm sewer. Lou and Al, you probably remember when we did that back in 97, 98. It was a 54-inch piece of ADS pipe, just collapsed. It was in the yard, it wasn't even under the road. So we called ADS out, and even though the project's 16 years ago, they did a study on the resin in the pipe, and of course, they're not saying that any of it's their fault, they're saying it was improperly put in. So after more discussions, there's 200 feet of this 54-inch pipe, which they no longer make that size. So you either have to go up or down to 48 or up to 60. Well, the manholes will not hold a 60-inch pipe, and I really don't want to go down because the engineering don't allow me to decrease the amount of pipe for the volume of the water that comes through there. So they did give us 100 feet of 60-inch pipe. It's going to be delivered this week. It's at $80 a foot. So we would have to buy the other 100 feet. Also, it's 10 feet deep, so we're not set up to dig this whole line, so we'd have to hire a contractor out. I can temporarily fix this one section right now. We can do that in-house. I think that's the way to go at this point until we see if more of these pipes fail.
Let me ask a question here. Going back in history here, even back to the time before I was even on the board, when I was sitting in the audience, this was being discussed. And eventually, this ended up being a county project. I believe Don Watkins got involved in this project.
He might have got it moving, but it was a township project.
Even as
Totally
off-road as it was.
A lot of it was off-road, some of it was on-road. This started at Cheswood, went all the way across Easton, all concrete pipe all the way up till we get to this point, and then it went to the ADS polyurethane. And this is where the failure happened. We went down in the pipe. It looks like there's some coming in the future, and I don't want to keep piecemealing this, because I can't put a piece of 60 over top of 54, because it'll affect the flow of the water. So I think my suggestion is to temporarily fix this piece, make it safe, and then see what happens here in the future. We're going to probably have to get this project hired out to the contractor. We could hold on to that pipe that ADS gives us, and we might have to redo the manholes, because the size of the manholes.
Have we gone back in the records with those agreements and seen?
Yes, there's no 16-year guarantee on anything.
No, I'm talking about with the full involvement with the county.
I didn't look at it, because I remember the project, I remember being the inspector on the project at that time. Back then, Jeff Dutton was here. I do believe
The
it was
county
paid for.
participated financially in this,
Township
large
funds,
funds.
if I'm not mistaken.
But let's go back and look prior to, because,
So does the board think I should temporarily fix this for now?
well, we can't allow the person's backyard to collapse.
Well, we've got it secured right now, but we can fix it so we can backfill it and everything to make it safe for us. The residents have been great, they have not complained. It all started with a little hole in their yard and just kept getting bigger. So,
I think we could take a look at it, absolutely.
because there's going to be further work needed on this, just run the pipe there. So, we'll get that temporary fix there this week, and then I'll continue searching, see what else we can do. Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. Okay, let's go to the zoning report.
All right, gentlemen, before you tonight, we have 12 nuisance abatements. The first being at 2410 Clarendon Avenue Northwest.
Which just reads out for all.
Okay, we've got 2410 Clarendon Avenue, 4721 Darlington Avenue Northwest, 6751 Levon Avenue Northeast, 3404 Martindale Road Northeast, 3292 Northern Street Northeast, 3607 Orion Street Northwest, 3221 Roosevelt Avenue Northeast, 2955 St. Elmo Avenue Northeast, 6840 Stone Creek Avenue Northeast, 6103 Wycliffe Street Northeast, 2707 30th Street Northeast, 1600 32nd Street Northeast. I would like to point out that on the property on Martindale, Mr. Iacino's crew did cut back grass along the right-of-way. The visibility issue that is on a hill there. So his crew did cut back some grass in order to assist the visibility on the corner. We thank him very much for that.
I'm gonna move on zoning 1A through L.
I will second those. Denny, for discussion, if you go to the photos of 4721 Darlington, yeah, this is an in-ground pool, but what is the plans for securing that pool?
On Darlington, what we have is
So it looks like the cover's stretched.
the cover is stretched and sunken. There is a fence around it that is at this point in time open. I was going to have our crews cable that fence shut and secure the fence, possibly pump whatever water is on the top out of it. In general, if it's within a fenced area, we'll do it. Certainly the fence is secured to stop anyone from getting into the backyard area.
It's better to pull that cover and pump it there dry and leave it dry.
Well, it's gonna rain again. What we
Well,
typically
you
have
never
done
know.
is we call the health department and they'll drop water side, and that's the best thing to
Are
do.
we doing that, Denny? Are we, for the mosquito purposes, are we drop all these that you see with water in them?
No, again, as Cal said, what we'll do is contact the health department, and Mr. Enger is looking into the possibility of he's checking his certifications to see if he can drop a larvicide in there for mosquito abatement.
I mean, will you do me a favor, will you get on this one right away, because mosquito
Right.
season's in now, and there shouldn't be, in the past, I know we've never had bodies of water open, we immediately through, yeah, like, we need to get on, if we can, I mean, it's in us, and
Right.
and you've got the West Nile, and people still talking about it, and,
Right.
yeah, as soon as you see it, if we make that call to the health department, they can drop this. Let me ask you, Mr. Walbert, I think I know, but did we used to throw those in, and we had the authority, or did the health department have to throw those in?
We've always gone through the health department for those. That's really more their jurisdiction than ours.
Yeah, we've done catch basins during the time of year when we do catch basins, but the health department wants to track and do those situations, I think, for their tracking purposes. But we could have Derek speak to him because he is licensed.
Right, he was checking on that.
And maybe they will
Are they-
allow that.
Are they prompt on
They
that?
are
Can they
very,
get back with us and let us know?
yes,
And then how
they
long
did
does it
last
last?
year.
If you put one in tomorrow, well, how long does it last?
30 days or the next rain,
Yeah.
we could create them again.
But they have to be the ones that put it in, we do not have the permission.
No.
Yeah, it's a licensing issue as to what you can and can't do. Now, we're well aware of the situations like that.
And you call them immediately?
Yeah.
Do they come get back with you immediately and tell you
They do.
that it's been in? Do you keep a record of it?
I had very good, yeah, when they call us, we'll make a note on the form that's been done. We've had very good relationships with the health department, they've been extremely cooperative with anything that we've ever requested of them to look at.
Thank you.
And Denny, the home on Martindale Road, are we going to check in with the county auditor's office and find out how many years delinquent that property is?
Yes, as I sent you an email on that earlier today. Okay, well, so, okay, but yeah, you're gonna check that. There has been a partial payment made last fall. I have to double check with the treasurer's office and the auditors to see if there's some kind of a payment plan that's been initiated on that, and then see whether or not what we can and can't do as far as moving those, that, and we've got a couple other parcels that are similar, continuing nuisances, see what we can do to move them along, the possibility of a share of sale.
And we do have a list of the ones, the repeat offenders, and we're policing those before the grass gets 2 feet high again. So people start complaining, we should be able to make sure we stay proactive on top of these. All right, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Yes.
Thank you, gentlemen. I would like to very quickly like to point out that we did begin work on the public health abatement on Rolling Ridge Avenue. So that is in process right now. Thank
A
you.
long process.
Yes, we're in the second 40 cubic yard dumpster was delivered at 2:30 this afternoon. We started putting it at 8:30 this morning. And we're in the second one, we'll probably go through 3.
Another 2 feet of water. All right,
Thank you, gentlemen.
thank you. Okay. Law Director,
Thank you, Mr. Geovasis.
Mr. Williams, respectfully, I apologize for that. I had to pull my agenda back up, I didn't know where we were at.
No worries. I've got on the agenda an amendment to our home rule resolution, as we talked about at the last meeting, with respect to the barking dogs, section 101 of chapter 100 under our home rule resolutions. What we have changed there is it exempts veterinary hospitals, kennels, or animal boarding establishments. But we said that exemption was fine so long as those establishments are not in a residential district of the township. So that is the change that's before you. It needs to be published twice in the newspaper of general circulation and becomes effective 30 days after it's published. So that's what you have to decide if you want that change on the books, or whether you don't. But that's what we came up with, would be the most expedient way to alleviate some of the concerns that have been brought to our attention by some residents with regard to almost incessant barking of dogs.
Also move on law director number 1.
I'll second it.
Discussion.
I think this is the way to go. This alleviates the problem. It takes it out of the realm of zoning so that we don't have to worry about the issue of whether or not these places are grandfathered. The only downside is if we're going to come into contact with, and you know, this stuff comes out of the woodwork as you change things, some veterinary emergency hospital that someone lives 2 blocks behind and says they can hear dogs, you know, barking all the time. It's on Middle Branch, but it's zoned residential. You know, there may be a weird situation out there that we're not thinking of as we pass this. What this certainly does do is give the folks that we have heard from on this issue, and I see that they're present here tonight, an avenue by which to get some relief and some peace in their home, which I think is the goal of, you know, the residential exemption being waived.
I mean, for the most part, most of these veterinary hospitals and things like that are located in a business area. With the exception of the one I can think of is on the corner of Schneider Market, but that is
That's got a lot of stuff.
it's got a non-conforming use permit already there,
Right.
so,
Yeah, I think this would alleviate the issue that the legitimate issue that seems to have come up with regard to, I live next to these folks, they have a kennel license, the dogs never shut up, I can't enjoy my home. This is the way I think to
when
take
they bought
care
a
of
house and
that.
decided to put a kennel in the backyard.
Sure. So this, I think, takes care of that without, uniformly, without the issue of the grandfather.
Perfect. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Geovasis?
Okay, then we'll go to approval of the minute. No, we gotta go to public speaks. Okay, we've come down to the portion of the agenda for public speaks. If anybody wishes to address the board, they may do so at this time. Again, we only ask that you give your name and address clearly for the fiscal officer. And if you haven't signed the sheet in the back of the room, please do before you leave. So we can make sure we get your name and address spelled correctly in the record.
Good evening. My name is Brian James, 1312 Schneider, Northeast. I've got 9 different things here. I'm not going to take a lot of your time, and I really don't expect an answer tonight for any of them. Next meeting would be appreciated. First one is the ongoing non-emergency road closings on Schneider and McDowell Acres, to where we can't even get out of our homes or can't even get into the homes. And I'm not kidding about that. People actually hold you up and will not let you in or out of your driveway. It's totally unacceptable to me. If you're going to do this kind of stuff, you should at least come to the people and put some kind of a note on their door and let them know that they're not going to be allowed to leave their homes. Also, the loudspeakers, number 2. At the ball field, there was some kind of a concert or something here the other evening that went on past midnight. And I know if I would have had some kind of a party like this, the cops would have been surrounding my house. Plus, in the morning, about 6 o'clock in the morning, one guy said something like, okay, it's time to get up, I spent all night here too. You know, we're getting inconvenienced in that residential area anymore. It's getting out of control. Number 3, hearing rumors about sidewalks coming up and down Schneider. I don't know exactly what that's all about. Everybody drives to school. It's a high school, for that matter. Amphitheater. This area is getting bad enough as it is, and is there going to be an amphitheater? And if there is, it's going to have more nuisance, more, you know, it's just getting out of control. Oakwood Square. What's going on with that? To me, that would have been a good place for a fire station. But apparently, I think Schneider's getting the blunt of it because nothing was happening with this area over here. So we're getting all the stuff down there. Number 6, the fire station. Why couldn't there have been a regular functional fire station instead of this Taj Mahal with all the sandstone arches? You know, it's a waste of taxpayers' money as far as I'm concerned. Also, the road backs up from Market to Middle Branch. I was out there this one evening during a football game. It was back for 45 minutes. Now, I don't know how anybody plans to get a fire truck or an EMS vehicle down there at that particular time. It's not going to happen. I don't care how many lights you put down there at the fire station. It's not going to make the cars disappear. Also, trains run. And the fire stations, I don't know, I've been hearing rumors about close the one on Middle Branch, and the one on Easton. If that's the case, how are the EMS, fire trucks and everything going to get across the railroad tracks to go out to the east? It can't happen. It's going to slow your response time down. I don't care what you say. And are there plans for widening Schneider because of all this congestion and everything else? I don't know if you plan on putting a 3rd lane in 4 lanes or whatever, but you better start thinking about that. And my last and final, I called on this Sunday the 19th when the road was closed and I couldn't get out my driveway. And I called Mr. Geovasis and Mr. Lino several times. I got no response. That was on a Sunday. I called Monday, talked to Lisa and Mrs. Campbell, excuse me, and she was off sick, whatever. She did call me the next morning, and I wanted to know why you two didn't call. And she said that she'd get back with me. And it took 2.5 days for Mr. Lino to get back to me, and I'm still waiting on a call from Mr. Geovasis.
Can I just
I'll
ask,
be back next time for
Mr. James, can I ask you a question of you? Loudspeakers at the ball field, are you talking the high school stadium, the ball field, is that what you're talking
Yeah, they
about?
got them way up in the air, and it just broadcasts all over the place. We're a quarter mile away.
Do we know what went on over there since that school board sanctioned?
They had an all-night thing with band playing.
Oh, you know what that was? That was the American Cancer Society, or American Cancer Society's Relay for Life, I think they did over there.
Yeah, it was. That's what it was.
Sorry. All right, I'm done.
As far as, well, I mean, it's regarding not returning the phone call, I apologize. I don't know if that was between the time where I switched lines and got a new phone or not, but I think that was during that time period, and then I found out that Mr. Reno had called and talked to you. But I do apologize for not calling you back myself, because I normally do call people back or email them back right away. But it doesn't happen all the time, so I take responsibility for that. In regards to some of the other issues, I think some of the things that you bring to our attention are valid concerns and claims. The one thing that I am going to touch base on is the fire station. The fire station where it's currently located at, prior to building that fire station, back in planning building that fire station back in 2005. I believe that talks and discussion was probably in 4 or 5 Beacon Journal articles, several repository articles, several township newsletters. We put the levy on the ballot. We explained what we were going to do with those tax dollars if that levy was passed. Where were we going to build the fire station at? The amount, the cost of that fire station, and the reason why that we built it in the location it's at. And the chief probably can answer it better than myself, but from a logistical standpoint, from a response time, when they look at response areas to respond to a fire, I think that original study came back, Donnie, and said that that fire station should have been located somewhere up around the intersection of Middle Branch and Schneider. That would have included not only building the station, but buying additional property. Where our fire stations are at currently today, they were built because property was they were donated, and the township back then decided to put a fire station on these parcels that were donated at the time. The only problem with that is, from a response aspect, they're not in the right spot to maximize response time. So if something happened, we can get there just as quickly. You bring up a good argument about the railroad tracks. With the fire station east and where it's at, if we would have to respond west, we have the same scenario with the railroad tracks,
There's another fire station over there on Market.
which would be able to adequately come around the other direction if something like that would happen. But that fire station is being built in the position it's at because logistically, from an ISO rating standpoint, it's in the best spot where we're able to respond north, south, east, west. Not only that, this building was built in 1992. Back in 1992, the township's population was probably about 14,000 people less than we are today. We've outgrown this building. So without going into expensive building in a fire station and going into a very costly expansion of this building, because it wasn't designed to be able to expand upward or downward back when they built this in 1992, we decided to move our entire fire administration offices into that new facility so the township administration could expand into this building without any additional cost. Because it's a little less expensive to build something with the fire administration and playing it into it is to expand onto something that already exists. Case in point is because we looked at renovating Station 4 on East. The cost of renovating that building, raising the elevation because of flooding issues and elevation issues to that station. It wasn't designed with living quarters. It was designed to be a volunteer station, meaning the person came from home and responded. They didn't live in the facility as they were working. There was no sleeping quarters. The cost of renovating that building was almost as expensive as building that new building in the right place. So that's the reason why we decided to build it where we're building it. I don't know, Chief, if I'm leaving anything out there.
No, honestly, Mr. James, I appreciate your comments. I'd be more than willing to entertain any questions you have. I'd encourage you to come into the office. We can sit down and talk about the questions or concerns you have. I can lay it out in detail to you, hope to make it more clear to you why we're doing it, what we're doing.
Yeah, I just didn't appreciate all the extras on it.
And I certainly appreciate your comments, in your field.
And moving on to some of the other issues, we'll get back to you on some of these things about the race issues, the closures and things. I think you have some valid concerns there.
If you choose to. The race was for the crisis center, and you were mailed a mailer previous to the race. Everybody on the course was sent a mailer of the times it would be closed. The race was closed for 1 hour and 10 minutes. In any emergencies, there were sheriff deputies there and there were firemen there. You would have been able to get out at that time.
Well, all the volunteers, you need to talk to them then.
Well, I have talked to the sheriff's office, and
Well, they
they were
weren't.
aware of the problem, and they knew that if somebody had to get out, they would get out.
Well,
It's
they
always
weren't
been
there,
a
but the
policy.
volunteers have an attitude, I'm gonna tell you that.
That might be possible, I'm not
Okay,
denying that.
well, last year, I was coming down Market when I tried to turn on Schneider, and they had the barricades there. My back end of my car was out on Market, I almost got hit. And I told people, I said, move the barricades, I need to get out of here, I live right up the road. Nope, you can't come up here, you can't come up here. And they refused to move the barricades. They told me to go up to McDowell, went up to McDowell, they wouldn't let me in there. So I finally had to get out of the car and told them, move them or I'm running them over. I've had enough of your silliness. And I'm not making this up, this is the truth, that's why I'm here.
I was always at the intention that the barricades were at Beverly.
They were on every intersection.
There might have been a warning barricade, but the actual road
They wouldn't
closure
let me
was
through it.
Snyder in Beverly.
They were standing right out there.
Okay, I'll look into that.
As far
That was last year. This year, I just couldn't get out of it. Last year, I couldn't get in.
as far as in regards to some of the a couple of the traffic points that you brought up, specifically your one point rumors on sidewalks. We've got an elementary school, a middle school, and a high school there. There's a number of students that walk on that road.
Not by my place.
Well, unfortunately.
Maybe up at the other end.
Yeah, and that, I mean, we're talking 9 years
That's when
old.
sidewalks are being.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah,
up
so
at the other end.
there was simply, what I'm gonna get to is there was discussion 2 years, was it two, maybe even 2.5 years ago?
December of 2011.
Yeah, there was discussion between a joint meeting of the Board of Trustees and the school board. Said, hey, you know, these are things we want to take a look at. Our board, through the work of the administrator and the other department heads, pulled together all the information for a grant that was available at that time. In order to be able to complete that grant, there was information that was needed from the schools. The short of that was there wasn't the financial resources to provide us the additional information we needed in order to lock down the grant. Essentially, it was a traffic study. So what that brought us to is a debt issue. There, at this point, is no plan, no intentions of any sidewalks going in there, though there is raised concern about children walking on the streets and folks at the rate of speed in which they're traveling, which the sheriff is keeping an eye on due to other residents who have come in here on that. So that's really all I can talk to with respect to sidewalks. With respect to traffic congestion, Market to Middle Branch, I'm going to assume you're talking the leg that runs between Schneider, so whether you're coming off of Market on to Schneider or from Middle Branch on to Schneider, is that a correct assumption?
Yes.
Again, another concern that's been escalated with the transportation director through the schools. They've done some things to try to cut that down. Because I know personally, I've come down Market and without there being a turn light there to get on the Schneider, you will wait. It's sort of like playing chicken sometimes, having to time when you're coming, but with the widening of Market from 55th all the way up to Mount Pleasant?
A little bit past Diamond, it's not going on.
Past Diamond, going to 4 lanes, there's gonna be turn lane, traffic signal.
Wednesday.
That's being coordinated with the county and the state,
That's ODOT.
predominantly the state.
2016, I do believe it's going to get started.
So, that I think helps speak to the Market, the Middle Branch somewhat. Schneider widening, there's no.
I don't see it as right now.
I can tell you from how the departments are funded, we don't have funds to go constructing a wider road, let alone, maintaining it. Joe's already looking at a number of different ways to stretch our paving dollars, let alone build more infrastructure, be responsible for paving more. Oakwood Square Plaza update, I'm gonna steal a little Mr. Giavasis' under here, because I mean, he's been the shepherd on this. There's, Mr. Geitschke bought that at a tax sale for $750,000, I believe. May not be to the penny. He's making substantial and significant investments right now within the internal infrastructure of it. He or a representative of his company that does the leasing and so forth has been in attendance at these meetings to provide updates and so forth with what's going on. I know it may not all be visible, and trust me, I live just down the road here past it, so I want to see something change in it as well. But there's progress being made there. There's a new business going back in there, the adult daycare. He's working with a number of other businesses, whether they're existing or potentially interested. And when I say existing is, there's at least one merchant back there that's looking to expand, so he's trying to find ways to reposition them back there. I think maybe Mr. Falk, you may even be able to speak to just some of the activity and the frequency of the communication on what's going on.
Right, I think it's a long process. I think Mr. Haas is very correct, and I know there's been a lot of work done on the interior of the structures, electrical work, roofing work. They put a lot of money into it that no one sees right now. They've done repairs to sidewalks and cases like that, and we are in continual touch with their leasing agents, trying to assist them. When we hear of a business possibly looking in, it's all recommended there. Unfortunately, the Oakwood Square situation is not going to be an overnight change. It's going to be a long process in order to get people trusting the area again. That is be a viable economic source. One thing, I don't know if you have to read last Friday's business section, the Stark County, the Canton Repository was an article on housing starts. And in that article, it was pointed out that Plain Township was second in the county in the number of housing starts for the month of April. And I was called by a reporter and quoted in that article as stating part of the reason that people are beginning to move here is because we are a community. It's a community feel, and we're trying to protect that community as much as we are, and we also have amenities. But we also pointed out that 3 subdivisions in this general area are very popular. One is Lexington Farms, the other is Saratoga Hills, and the other is Wicker Creek, and they are all east and northeast from here. And that information has been passed along also to the leasing agents, and they're using that to help promote what's going on as far as the number of potential housing sites in the area. And that's what, frankly, that's what our commercial folks want to look at. So it's a slow process. I believe we are happy that at least the local individual now has ownership of it, not someone from out of state. And we're working with them on a continual basis.
And he's currently in the process of getting prices from asphalt companies to grind out the parking lot and start repaving the parking lot, which is one of the biggest eyesores of the plaza. Can we get that corrected? So.
That's $250,000 plus.
But he is a local business owner and very successful. If you drive to Walsh University, you can see that there's a building there named now with his name on it that he did for the college, the university. And I know Mr. Genie, if he puts his name on something, he's not going to do it halfway. He's going to make sure it's done right, and he's going to make sure that he has an office in this plaza now that he's at every day himself. So if anybody would have any questions, you'll probably find him over at the plaza at any given day in that office. So he's a hands-on owner. He's not an out-of-state owner like we've had in the past. And he owns one plaza. The previous owner owned 3 different plazas. He's got his sole attention focused on redeveloping this place behind us. It's going to take some time, like Danny said, but people are going to start seeing some progress on the outside here going into the summer and fall.
Just one last point that I had noted here that you had mentioned, amphitheater.
Yes.
Mr. James, there's no amphitheater going in anywhere in the near future. That was part of the original plans.
That's not going to happen.
No, there's nothing in the near future. Essentially, how you may have heard about this is when Schneider Community Park was developed, and I don't think I was on the board of trustees.
No, I don't think.
Yeah, there was a number of public meetings that were held talking about, hey, what would the park's ultimate layout look like? As part of the ultimate plan, there is an amphitheater, but how's that developed, funded, for its creation, let alone maintained, was essentially through the use of estate tax dollars, which is no longer a funding source to local government entities. So unless somebody graciously comes and says, hey, Plain Township, we want you to develop the second phase of the park, there's a very low, if not non-existent probability of that being developed because our parks are essentially funded. Diamond's self-sufficient through user fees. The other 2 parks are through, the general fund, which is taking about 40 to 43% hit. So this board's not coming off any money just to develop extra phases when we've had revenue that's cut like that, not having a parks levy and so forth. So there's nothing of potential anywhere in the near future on an amphitheater, but the only talk of an amphitheater would have been during the parks.
Yeah, it is on the blueprints of phase 2, which will, like you said, who knows when that'll ever be developed. But it is written in phase 2 with amphitheater.
Building to the side of the hill.
So, trying to answer as best you can so far, and anything else that's outstanding, you'll have follow-up responses provided to you.
All right,
And there's traffic concerns, we'll make sure we do follow up.
please.
Is it for the record reflect too, that on the speakers at the ball field, if somebody can communicate that over to the, whether it's the school board or the superintendent or whoever, that we had somebody in attendance that, raise that concern, see if they've got any
Yeah, I thought it sounded from the morning session. I'll let Eric do that.
Yeah, because it's football stadium.
Are there any more scheduled runs in the near future?
On Father's Day, 6 p.m. at night, there's a different kind of run. They're using the Stark Trail. So they'll only be running across Snyder Road at one point, more or less in a group the first time. So there might be a slight minute closure, and then when they come back through, they'll close again, but all the other times it'll be open. But they are using the trail through the park and around the school for that run.
Yeah, I'd like to sort of keep the roads for cars and the tracks for people.
Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to address? Okay. All right, that'll close the public speaks. There is a need for executive session. Approval of minutes, I apologize. I will move the approval of the minutes of
May 14th regular meeting.
Yes, May 14th regular meeting.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
I'll also move adoption of the meeting of the special meeting of May 21st, 2013.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes. Nothing else. There is a need for executive session. Be it hereby resolved by the Plain Township Board of Trustees, Stark County, Ohio, to adjourn to executive session at 7:15 p.m. from this regular meeting of May 28, 2013, as authorized under Ohio Revised Code 121.22G for the purpose and consideration of 1B, employment of a public employer official, 1E, promotion of or demotion of a public employer official, and F, compensation of a public employer. I'll second it. Discussion, roll call.
Mr. Lino?
Yes.
Mr. Haas?
Yes.
Mr. Gevasis?
Yes.